case study was called Another Day in the Office. It was 7:20 a.m. when Gordon arrived at the office. He was early because he wanted to clear the backlog of work that had been piling up on his desk. He turned on the lights and started to go through yesterday's mail. As he read the first piece, he realised he couldn't deal with it until a colleague arrived. He set it aside and went on to the next. This item was relevant to a project he was working on, so he walked down the hall and made a copy for his personal use. As he continued reading his mail, he came across an article of particular interest and became engrossed in it. He was startled to find, as he looked up, that others were arriving and it was nearly 9 o'clock. He quickly pushed the remaining mail to a corner of his desk and reached for a project file due tomorrow with at least 2 days' work yet to be completed. As he opened the file, Bill and Claire stopped by and invited him to join them for coffee. Gordon decided he could spare 10 minutes. Bill and Claire were both keen to talk about a play they'd seen last night. Without being rude, Gordon joined in. Before Gordon realised it, 30 minutes had passed and he hurried back to his office. As Gordon entered his office, his phone rang. It was Mr. Wilson, his manager. There was a meeting scheduled at 10 o'clock. Could Gordon sit in for him? There was something to be discussed that the department should know about. Gordon looked at his watch. There wasn't enough time to get started on the project, so he pushed the file aside and vowed to start it immediately after lunch. The afternoon wasn't any better. A few visitors, a few phone calls, a couple of letters, and the day was over. Nothing had been accomplished on the project that was due tomorrow. As he stuffed papers into his briefcase, he wondered how Bill and Claire were able to go to the theatre in the evening. So what could he have done differently? He came in early to work. Should he not have opened his mail? What would you have done? Okay, so he shouldn't have gone talking to Bill and Claire about a coffee, but that was half an hour. Why did he? Exactly. He didn't want to appear rude. He didn't want to appear not part of the team. He didn't have enough time to stand in for that meeting for Mr. Wilson. Why did he? That's right, because he didn't want to not look like a good part of the team. What should he do? Turn his phone off? Not have it on at all? Not answer people? Not help people? And yet he's got a project to do. How does he feel when he leaves work that day? Happy or stressed? Is he worried? You bet he is. So this is very, very important. So, was Gordon successful in any of his tasks? Okay, not in any. So what was the point of him going to work? You might say not a lot. Yeah. Do you think Gordon understood the reality of the situation he was in? Did he understand his problem? Do you think he knew how much trouble he was in right at the beginning of the day? Okay, he came in early to work on it. But how did he deal with it? Did he do anything to deal with the problem? Or what he did didn't work, did it? Now, how many of us have behaved exactly like that when we've been in that situation? Because logically, you think getting in earlier, working longer hours should deal with the problem, and yet it doesn't. So let's look at something else. Let's look at his best time of the day. For him, what was the best time of the day for him to get things done? Okay, the morning. He came in early. He had 2 hours to be able to crack on with that project where he could concentrate without anybody stopping him. And what did he do? That's right, he looked at his emails. What was the point? Going through messages that were not that important. What was important? What was his priority? That's right, the project. And what did he do? His emails. Why? What was easier to look at, his emails or the project? Bingo. It's easier to look at your emails, but it's much harder to deal with the hard stuff. So we'd like to do the easy stuff first and then pushing the hard stuff back. Does this remind any of you how you live your lives? You want to put the bad stuff off? Oh, I don't want to deal with that. I'll deal with the easy, fun stuff first. Does that help you get more done in life? How do you feel, by the way, when you finally completed that hard thing? Feel better? Mandy, when you've got a big project to do, what do? And when you finished it? Exactly. So you feel better when you've dealt with it head on, confronting the issue. How do you feel, Derek, if you put something back that you should be doing? Okay, good. So when you know in your heart you should have been doing it, you feel bad about yourself, even if it's at a small level. Now, in Gordon's day, were there any times where he would have benefited from saying no? What were they? Maybe something different. Okay, when Bill and Claire came over, what should he have said? No, I've got too much to do, I can't come and talk for coffee. That was the first thing. There was another time where he could have said no, it would have saved him a lot. That's right, okay, so when Mr. Wilson, the manager, asked him to say, can you stand in for a meeting? Gordon should have said, no, I'm afraid I can't, I've got work to do. So it's two instances there really could have made a big difference to his day. Alright, good. Okay, any ideas of what you would recommend for Gordon? Alright, let me ask you this. Do you think he'd benefit from scheduling an agenda for his day? Alright, now let's together in groups, let's put together his agenda. Super, good. So we've come up with some solutions for Gordon, an agenda. So let's say, pre-9 o'clock, he works on catching up with his project. 9 to 9:45, he deals with his urgent mail. 9:45 to 10, he can allow himself 15 minutes to have coffee with Claire, as long as it's no longer. And Bill, of course, let's not forget Bill. 10 till 12 is his meeting that Mr. Wilson asked him to go on. But because he's organised himself more effectively by doing the project work in the morning, he can give himself that extra time to play with, including having a lunch, as opposed to working through your lunch. And how many of us have worked through lunch? Exactly. 1 to 2 can continue with an hour of project work, but in doing this, no phone calls, no meetings, phone on voicemail, because after his 2 till 2:15 break, he gives himself 45 minutes to deal with all the voicemail messages from the morning, looking at colleagues, answering emails, and speaking to people that he needs to. Because 3 till 5, his phone goes back on voicemail, he can finish that project. And when he goes home at 5 or 5:30, he knows, weight off his shoulders. The project's done. He's helped everybody, been nice to the people he needs to be nice to. He's helped Mr. Wilson with the meeting. He's done everything because he's organised. And that's one of the main lessons we're going to look at, getting organised. And the next part is getting organised.